Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, sometimes you've just got to get bloody. And you know, if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with, once more, as always. My name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because quite frankly, you're listening right now. And if you are, you know, hit that like button, hit the subscribe, give us the smash, you know, the positive thumbs up on your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere. Places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, we're on the Twitter, we're on the Instagram, we're on the Letterboxd, and we're on the TikTok for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because, you know, if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it even more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please, pay us a visit. On this episode, we got a fun one, and by fun we mean absolutely fun. It is a show that is airing on Hollywood Suite now with our friends over at Hollywood Suite. It is season 5, I do believe, is the correct number for it, but it's the slasher anthology series. This season's called Slasher Ripper, which is a bit of a throwback to the old Jack the Ripper days, and it's an anthology series that features a variety of rampaging serial killers that leave carnage in their wake as their next victims fight to stay alive. Like I said, seasons 4 and 5 currently airing now, are playing with our friends over at Hollywood Suite. If you haven't signed up for Hollywood Suite, I do recommend you go check that out because it is a fantastic service. If you don't already have it through your cable provider, you can check it out as a channel via Prime Video. And this show, it's a lot of gory fun. It's homemade. It's Toronto made. Think Murdoch Mysteries, but just with a ton of blood. And we had the unique pleasure with this season 5 airing now to sit down with the one and only Paula Brancati, who is playing a big part in this series. She is well, we're having a lot of fun with her on this one. She's definitely chewing the scenery, and she's definitely one of our favorite Canadian actresses who is putting in the good work. She's producing as well, and just we talked about the ups and downs of it all, and just sort of the nature of the show and being involved, and some of the crazy stuff she gets into this season with her character. And it's again, if you need a show that's a little bit gory, little campy, but a lot of fun, I do recommend you check out Slasher Ripper, which is again available on Hollywood Suite right now. But first, enjoy our talk with Paula Brancati, because between you and me, it is a darn good one. All right. Well, obviously, Paula, first off, just thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate this.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. Thanks for wanting to chat.
Now, I mean, I got to be at the premiere the other week, and just it's so much fun. I mean, the second it was over, I went over to our publicist. I got to talk to Paula, just because
That's so nice.
this is so, like, I have a feeling that for an actor, you know, there's always the joke about, you know, getting to chew the scenery. But I mean, here in this obviously iteration, I'm sure this was probably encouraged for you to chew the scenery. Walk me through, I guess, not only slasher, but I mean, particularly this iteration of it.
Totally. Well, you're right. This character has a lot of colors to her, and I think, I've been a part of every season of the anthology in one way or another. And in season 3, I played someone who was also quite colorful and polarizing. So when Ian and Aaron pitched me this character, I was really interested in her arc. I think, with a character who has some colors of humor to her, because I think Viviana, the thing about her, she doesn't know quite how funny she is. I think she
Right.
thinks she's a lot smarter than she is also. But has an incredible darkness to her and such an interesting arc this season. I was so excited. It's very dreamy for an actor to dive into something like this. And I think the fine line is, hopefully grounding it all in a real place. And I think that's what is so fun about this show, is that we have characters that bring humor, and then we have sort of like characters, like Gabe's character, who's really leading the way in terms of the whodunit. So there's a real I think a complement between storylines, and it's such a strong ensemble. So it's really fun to play in those dynamics with all these other amazing actors.
No, I mean, does period piece sort of help you get into the mode, or does it sort of is it just sort of an extra layer that you have to add on? Because I remember when I was watching this, someone beside me went, "Oh my God, this is Murdoch Mysteries, but with like much, much more blood."
So much more blood. And I was nervous about the period piece component because I've done an episode of Murdoch and an episode of
Right.
Frankie Drake, and which was so fun, but I'd never done, anything that was staunchly period for quite a long period of time as a character. So I was really interested in getting into the costumes, and our amazing designers, Jessica and Sophie, did such a beautiful job, and our production design team, and of course Adam and Ian and Aaron at the center, to really make you feel like you're a part of this world. So some of it was things I was prepping, and some of it, when you arrive on these incredible sets, you're sort of like have no choice but to be thrust into this other world. So I love that we were in a period like this, because it also made it so staunchly different from the previous seasons.
Yeah.
And I certainly wasn't nervous about having to worry that the characters were too similar to my character last season. So it was a thrill, and the writing certainly did that for me.
No, I mean, I've got to ask, when you go in, like, do you like, because in the first couple of episodes there's a rather infamous scene with you in a whip. Do you know that the whip is happening, or do you just walk onto set one day and go, "Oh, by the way, you're working with a whip"?
Well, I'm really lucky to have worked with Aaron for a long time, since Being Erica, and Ian now for quite a few years. And he was also on Being Erica, but we got close on Slasher, of course. So we all are very tight, and they tell me, from the get-go, what the arc of the character usually is, which is always fun when they're calling me or we're hanging out to sort of paint that picture. I got to read a bunch of it, and I think what's interesting about this show, and what makes it challenging and also really exciting for the cast and crew, is that we have all eight scripts up front, so almost like shooting a big long movie, and we're shooting them all entirely out of order. So I, in fact, shot some of my characters' later stuff my second day. So
Wow.
you are fully mapping out your entire picture, ahead of time. So for sure, I knew the whip scene was coming. I was really excited when I read episode 1, and without spoiling anything, but hopefully people are watching because it's out now. When I really saw her turn, and her true jealousy, and this sort of desperation in Viviana, in not being the sparkliest youngest sister, I was really, really excited to dive in there for sure.
I mean, I think that's what really drew me into your performance of this, because it wasn't like in a big flourish. It was just that shift in the eyes, and then it was like, uh-oh, shit's on. Like, for you, like, as an actor, how big is it to sort of have moments like this where you're getting to play it quite like you're getting to play it with a build, as opposed to sort of off on kind of thing, because there's definitely a build with this character.
Oh, thank you for saying that. It's very kind. And I think that the nuances are things that really excite me in a performance. Um, I'm also really invited to play by Aaron and Ian and Adam. There's a lot of stuff I'm trying, and I felt like, a piece of it was me also diving into things that made me a bit nervous. So I think when you are like leaning into some darker, uglier sides, this sort of private version of Viviana that we see in her house. It's very different than how she presents out in the world. And we all have a private and a public persona, of course, but I really saw it. So I was really interested in building that very clearly in how her voice changed, in even her posture, and we made some choices about, maybe at home she is just wearing her corset, but when she's out, she of course has to be buttoned up, and how we chose to design her hair. Ray, our incredible key hair designer, we really talked about like every little detail for her, and I think all those things form a performance, and it's just so much fun to play pretend like that, and I'm glad it's translating. So
No, I mean, something
hear.
else that I'm really starting to appreciate the show, because I got to go back a little bit and see some of the others. This show really has had such a sustained level of success across the globe, really. It's not just a Canadian show, it's really an international show. Like, how big is it for you to, I mean, even if you have to sort of travel somewhere to, do something else, like people may recognize you from Slasher. It's kind of one of those things that is translating all across the globe.
I think that's something that's so exciting about working in the genre space, is that the genre doesn't know any location or bounds, and it really connects people. That's something I really was so thrilled by. I'd never worked in horror before. I'd never really done a thriller before. So there's this whole other community, and I really love that. I think it's certainly, I scare very easily, so I get scared even shooting some of the scenes we do, but then getting to learn from the fans, like that they appreciate, in particular some Easter eggs that Adam may have built in, and homages to classic horror. It's given me a greater appreciation for the genre for sure, and I've delved in myself and watched iconic performances and been like, oh yeah, I mean, I love Scream, for example, and when we did Guilty Party, that and sort of I think I know what you did last summer. Yeah, those were huge for me when I was a teenager, and I was like, how do we kind of bring in different horror into every season a little bit? That's been really fun for me, and I'm just like thrilled that people are liking it and bonding over it globally. So it's super cool.
Well, and it's such a weird dichotomy too, because people, who don't understand will see the blood, the guts, the gore, but it's such a warm community as well.
Totally, that's it. Like, I think that's what I learned too, is also the humor that's built into our scripts. I think is what makes the writing, is part of what Ian and Aaron do so well, and part of what makes the writing so clever is there's some winking and there's some levity amidst some really heavy storylines, and I think the fans of the genre really appreciate that. And also something that Ian and Aaron do and talk a lot about is making the kills really count, making them matter. Sorry, making sure that every death really matters. We're with all these people and we're seeing all these characters and their darkness and their secrets, but then by the time people are killed, you really see this other side of them, and you feel for them. So I think that I think that's why the show is also connected, is because I think it's doing something very specific in genre. And I don't think there's any tropes being used here, and I've said this a lot of times, but for me it's been so delightful to never feel like the female characters are being used in any kind of trope-y kind of way. Everything's
You're not running up the stairs hiding in the closet kind of thing.
Well, yes, like not once have I ever felt that in turning a page, and I'm like so in awe of all this entire cast, and everybody gets such time to like shine and play, and it uses all their tools in their toolkit. So that's a huge appeal to me as well.
Now, I mean, I'm curious on your perspective on something, because it really feels like in the past 10 years, I mean, and even maybe even less than that, just given sort of the rise of the streamers and the demand for content, as Canadians, I mean, especially in Southern Ontario, we're getting an opportunity to work not only, but I mean, create some really fantastic stuff in our own backyards. Like, how have you seen the business grow on that end? Because I mean, again, you've been doing this for a minute, so.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. You're right, and it's true. It's like you don't really have to leave the city you're in to be working on shows that are watched everywhere. I've been very fortunate to grow up in this film community here. It's a super supportive one in Toronto, and then I've grown up with the crews here on set as an actor, who I've then worked with as producer now and as director. So there's something really thrilling about being able to feel like you're going back to school on the first day of school and seeing all your buddies and working on something that a lot of people are going to watch and care about. That's really exciting. And I think we are seeing, shifts globally as well in terms of like certainly huge Canadians who are on the map in a massive way and have always been. But I'm really excited about also the filmmakers coming out of this city, distinctly Toronto stories. I can't stop talking about Brother, like by
Oh
Clement
my
Virgo,
God,
for
yeah.
example. That was like the best movie I've seen in the last year. And the fact that films by that are so specifically Toronto stories, such specifically Toronto stories, are being talked about everywhere, I think that just speaks to also like how the sexiness of Toronto and the talent here. And I feel very lucky to have grown up here and to have worked here for so long.
Now, I mean, something else I'm curious about, because I mean, like you said, you're producing as well and doing other projects, and you've written some. It always feels like to me, the people who are consciously trying to put out content of their own are the people who survive. If someone tries to get into this business to just be an actor or to just be this, it never quite works out. If anyone asks you, like, how important is the sort of need to be multifaceted, especially in today's, sort of media landscape?
I think in my case, it was something that sort of happened naturally. I was lucky to see other actors doing it in the city. One of my dear friends, Katie Boland, also writes and creates a lot of her own projects. So I had some really strong examples that I was growing up alongside. But I think I was really afforded the privilege of having experience as a child actor, where then I had, access to incredible crews. So I think it's amazing to be a multi-hyphenate, but I think what's exciting to me is, seeing people try things that they didn't know they might be good at. I mean, there's so many incredible roles on a film set and so many positions that need to be filled. And I think there's lots of ways to get involved in ways that might be exciting. I also think when you're creating your own work, you do feel a certain sense of control that can be missing a little bit as an actor. And I think it's also just about finding the skill set that feels like it's specifically yours. I think there's not one producer, there's not one way to produce, for example. I know
Right.
for me, a lot of it is about building out a team and the chemistry of a crew. And I love that team building component. I love developing a project from start to finish, but I think there's lots of different strengths. So what's super exciting, and what I would say to any actor who is curious, is like align yourself with other friends or peers that you admire, reach out and vibe out and creatively ping pong. So I like to call it, let's have a creative jam and see if you can make stuff within your community with people that you love and admire. Because I certainly don't think you can make films on an island. And I don't think I'd even be directing or producing had other people not paved that way for me and like collaborated with me from a very young age.
Well, and I mean, I'm glad you brought up Katie's movie, because I mean, her movie is so strong as well. It's such a fantastic piece of work. But I mean, I guess that dovetails into the next question. Like, is there a day where Paula Brancati takes sort of that center chair and directs? Is that sort of an aspiration for you?
Yes, I directed for the first time last year, and my the short that I directed was written by my dear friend Deb McGrath, who stars in it, and alongside her daughter Kinley Mockery and the great Eric Peterson. So we just had our Toronto premiere at Canadian Film Fest, actually.
Oh, sweet.
Eric
Okay.
is nominated for an ACTRA award, yes, and Eric won the CFF award for Best Actor, and Deb's nominated for a WGC award. So I'm a very proud director this week. It was the same week as the slasher premiere, and I'm so fortunate that so much of our slasher crew came out to do that with me. And I really think you're only as strong as the people you surround yourself with. So I think for me, again, it comes back to building out that family, and certainly telling stories about family is something I'm very passionate about. I've been producing for years, and I did a co-pro in Italy called From the Vine, and that was sort of an homage to my grandparents. And this short is about Deb and Kinley's experience with the passing of their grandfather. So I'm like so thrilled that they trusted me with it, and I hope to direct more.
I hope so too. But I mean, just in talking to you, and I mean, particularly about slasher, it definitely feels like this is more than a job. Because obviously you can take other gigs and it'll just be a gig. You'll be there for a few days and you'll walk away, and that's fine. It definitely feels like slasher has that extra level of sort of personal satisfaction for you, just in terms of the relationships you've built and all that. At the end of the day, how important is that for you as a working actor, just really to keep going? Because I mean, I can imagine sort of those one shot, 2 day here, 3 day here kind of jobs can be a little impersonal at times.
That's such a great point. I think we're certainly really lucky with slasher. I think the fact that you get to go back to work and see your friends year after year is really exciting. Also, some of my closest friends are in the cast. Christian Co, Salvatore Antonio, Serena Gerdovich, and lots of folks that Lisa Barry, Joe Vanicola. I mean, honestly, I could name everybody because I love them all. And I've met new friends like Sadie this year, who's so incredible and so talented. So to be working with people you admire and then also want to hang out with is a very special thing, no matter what job you're in, whether you're acting, no matter where you go to work every day. And to really trust, the crew, because it is a hard work day for them as well. And I think we all respect what everyone's bringing to the table, and that's very special. And I'm in awe of them all the time. So it's also like cool to be learning from your colleagues at every turn. And I feel very fortunate that I've gotten to work with them on this, but then also on other projects too. So it really speaks to, again, that Toronto film community, I think.
Oh no, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it gets to be a beautiful thing when people in the city get to collaborate together, but then also see their collaborations be put on the screen by a local broadcaster like a Hollywood Suite and so on and so forth. I mean, it really just dovetails into just the supportive nature of the community. And I mean, it always kind of weirds me out. I mean, whenever I get to travel and do other stuff and I'm there with other Toronto people, we're always talking to the Toronto people. And everyone else in town is like, what's going on?
Right? We're like magnets to each other. I can just sort of feel it and spot it. And it's true. It's like this badge of honor. I think people who are from here, love it. And I think there's a reason for that. And it is such a hub. I mean, I get, I grew up in Markham, and I'm just so excited to see stories that feel like they reflect all of, the community I grew up in. And I'm really excited about this generation of filmmakers coming up from the city. But yeah, Toronto or bust, am I right?
I mean, is it Toronto though, or is it Canada? Because I mean, I'm always curious, but it definitely feels centric on Toronto, how we all kind of get along and support each other.
I think Canada too. I think I've spent a little time in the East Coast, and it's so amazing, and a little bit on the West Coast. And yeah, I think there's certainly a Canadian pride that I think is so special. And it's really nice when our content is being celebrated on global stages, as you say. So it's it's certainly a nice place to have grown up and made television and film.
Well, Paula, keep doing the good work. I can't wait for more people to see this and you actively chewing the scenery, but having fun with it and just bringing the joy of horror to the masses. But I mean, seriously, congratulations on this season. And thank you so much for the time today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, David. Thanks for the coverage that In the Seats does to support filmmakers. I've been seeing, you guys reviewing the first indie films that I made, and I saw the coverage of CFF. So I really appreciate you wanting to talk. And it is because of you guys and outlets like this that our projects get out there. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Well, thank you. And thank you. But again, keep up the good work. And well, if I don't see you soon, we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Okay. You take care.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.